Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for being here. We're continuing on our series of Harlow demo rides, and today we are doing a review on the 2023 Sportster S. When Harley phased out the long-running Sportster Evo a couple of years back, they started by launching the Sportster S. A year or so later, they launched the Harley Nightster, which I reviewed in my last video here. First, let's talk specs. The Sportster S has the larger 1250cc version of the new Revolution Max engine. That gives this bike 94 foot-pounds of torque and 121 horsepower. The bike has a 29-inch seat height and weighs 500 pounds with a full tank, which only has 3 gallons of capacity. Wheelbase is just shy of 60 inches. It is priced at $17,600 with shipping and surcharges for black. If you want color, it's an additional $450. ABS, security, and cruise control are all standard on this bike, as are all of the rider safety enhancements such as cornering traction control, tire pressure monitoring, etc. The Sportster S is definitely Harley's version of a sports bike, but has some interesting differences from your typical sports bike. I think a Sportster S is more like a hybrid between a sports bike and a bobber. It has that bobbed out look, but with sports bike levels of power. Like the Nightster, the bike has the updated or modified control layout on the handlebars. Not bad or wrong, just different. Again, I do like the new on and off switch and start button layout. Until I got a Harley 4.5 months ago, all the other bikes I owned had both left and right blinker controls on one button on the left hand. The Harley Cruisers, as you all know, have split blinker controls, left turn on the left side and right turn on the right side. After getting used to that, I actually think I like the split approach better than having both on one side. It's a little easier on my thumbs than having to reach across to pull left with that button. It's a little less efficient in terms of handlebar real estate to have 2 buttons for blinkers, but I do like it a little better. I wonder if Harley is going to phase this new button layout into all of their bikes or just reserve that for the sport lineup. The controls on the Sportster S are forward controls, sort of. They list it as forward controls on the website, but they're not as far forward as your typical cruiser forward controls, maybe somewhere in between mid controls and forward. It creates an interesting rider triangle because the upper body position also leans you forward. Traditional sports bikes have rear foot controls and an aggressive forward position on your upper body, which basically takes the standard upright position and rotates it forward. The Sportster S has more of a clamshell position, with both the feet and the upper body going a little bit forward. I would have expected this position to be uncomfortable, but it actually wasn't bad. Riding this bike is fun if you like aggressive riding. With no windshield on the bike, at higher speeds, I found myself leaning forward and lowering my head even more to reduce the wind resistance on my chest. It means the wind resistance moves up to the helmet, making it feel like it's trying to pull my helmet off, but reducing the wind resistance on the chest makes riding at higher speeds a lot easier and more comfortable. At 500 pounds, the bike is plenty nimble. Being a cruiser boy, I'm not a big fan of having the front wheel so close to me. Until you get used to it, it feels like it wouldn't take much to flip you over the front of the handlebars, but once you get used to it, the bike handles really well. So let's compare this with the Harley Nightster, since they are both in the sports lineup. As I mentioned in my video review on the Nightster, the Revolution Max engine is a V-twin that doesn't sound or feel like a V-twin. It sounds more like an inline engine from a Japanese bike, or something halfway between a V-twin and an inline. The Revolution Max engine feels natural on the Sportster S because this feels and acts a lot more like a sports bike. So having the Revolution Max engine on this bike makes sense to me. But the Harley Nightster looks like it's supposed to be a cruiser, or a sport cruiser anyway. It's designed more like your typical cruiser, so I don't think the Revolution Max engine on the Nightster fits nearly as well. Quite honestly, I think if they wanted the Sportster Evo people to be interested in the Nightster, they should have put an updated version of the 883 V-twin engine in the Nightster, or something along those lines, something that's a standard V-twin engine. I know that the Revolution Max engine is also on the Pan America adventure bike, which I think fits that one just fine, but in my opinion, putting the Revolution Max engine on a cruiser, or at least a bike that looks like a cruiser, was a mistake. Just my opinion. If you think differently, feel free to let me know in the comments. So back to the Sportster S. Lots of power, decent handling, a surprisingly comfortable position for a bobbed out sports bike. It needs a windshield to help with wind resistance. That's just me. Considering I'm a touring bike guy, I personally think all of these small cruisers need windshields. One other thing, I was surprised after riding this bike to see that the seat height is 29 inches. On the cruisers I've ridden, anything over about 27-inch seat height is getting to be too tall for me due to the wider seat width. This bike has a very narrow seat, so I had no problem getting enough of my feet on the ground to keep the bike steady. In fact, I didn't even notice that the seat height was that high off the ground. All in all, it was a good ride, a decent bike if you want both a bobber and a sports bike or something in between. Not for me, but that's okay. That is it for this one, folks. Stay tuned for the next one, where we will review the Fat Boy. Thanks for being here. Feel free to subscribe and like. I appreciate you all. God bless.